Hello, hello, and welcome. And this evening, as I promised, I'm going to be talking really to you if you would say you are someone who always thinks you have to do stuff on your own. You can't trust anyone else to do it properly, perhaps, and you feel that you can't really rely on others. Perhaps it's very difficult to ask for help. And yeah, you're someone who might feel that you're quite independent, and that can be great. That can really get stuff done in the world, but equally it can often lead to feelings of separation and of isolation and of feeling that you don't fit in, and that might be fitting in your community or in your family even, or with a certain group of people. And I come across this all the time. I come across so many people who have a really core belief that they have to do things on their own. And I'm going to talk a little bit this evening about why that might have come around. So what could have been the trigger for that? And also why it's not always helpful, and it can often result in some sort of illness. So anything that ends in an itis. So an itis means, all it means is inflammation. So that could be anything from frequent tonsillitis, cystitis, arthritis, colitis. So anything ending in itis just means inflammation. It could mean water retention. It could mean depression. It could mean problems losing weight, even though you're following all these plans that your friends say work brilliantly for them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm not going to waffle on for too long. I'm going to get on with the tapping quite soon after. And then I'm going to use a technique that I use quite a lot with clients, where we go and we mop up all your little yous, your little versions of you that ever felt like this before. And we bring them into a lovely safe space, and they're all going to tap together. And I've been using this technique for a little while, but just in the last week, I made a conscious decision that I was going to work on this every day, at least once, often twice or three times. And it's really just that, bringing all we call them echoes, all the younger versions of you into this safe space, and just allowing them all to feel connected. Because when we feel a sense of disconnection from others and from life, and sometimes from ourselves, it often results in what you might call addictive behavior. So that could be addiction to chocolate, to alcohol, to drugs, to video games, to watching telly, to online shopping, to work. It could be, checking your phone every 2 minutes, anything that is a compulsive behavior, because all of those behaviors are all about connection. And when you feel that lack of connection in your greater world, you're going to look for something to fill the hole. And that might be stuffing down a bag of crisps or a bar of chocolate, or that might be getting online, and spending 2 hours on Facebook, or it might be something else. It might be making yourself feel good because you bought 15 new pairs of shoes. So whatever it is. So there are lots of resulting behaviors and disease that can come just from this feeling of separation. And what you probably notice in the first instance is that you're someone who can't rely on others, you can't ask for help. And the reason that this is really important is because our biology dictates that we depend on others. So I want you to imagine that you're living in a cave back in the day, back in those days when, our ancestors did live in caves in tribes. And in those days, your tribe was really, really important. Your tribe kept you safe. That might be safe from wild predatory animals, or it might be safe from the neighboring not too friendly tribe. And it was really important to be part of the tribe. And when you're separate from the tribe, so even now, that is in our DNA, that is in our bones, that is in our body. So when you feel separate from the tribe, that can result in you not feeling safe. And being safe, ahead of love, is the most important thing for humans. So that feeling of being safe is the most important emotion for human beings. And so it's really important for humans. It's a fundamental human need to feel safe and to feel part of a tribe. Now, if you feel that you're separate, if you feel that you have to do things on your own and you can't trust other people, you will feel like that because sometime very early in your life, probably in your first 6 or 7 years, something happened that made you believe that you can't trust other people. And very often that would be about not being able to trust your primary caregiver, so your mum, your dad, or whoever brought you up. And now, that sounds really dramatic, and it might have been dramatic, but equally it may have just been a day when mum had too much on and you really wanted to tell her something, or you really needed something, and she didn't have time to listen to you. So, you know, anyone who's a parent knows that that happens, you know, hundreds of times. So it could have been something actually quite inconsequential. It could have been losing your mum in the supermarket for 2 minutes when you were 2. But in that moment, you felt you weren't safe and you had been abandoned. Mum had disappeared and you couldn't trust her anymore. And it may be that from that day, your behaviour somewhat changed. So people will make this sort of event mean different things, and they will take on behaviours in different ways. So for some people, they might become very, very clingy. So this could be the children that do not want to go to school, who cry every single day when mum drops them off until they're in year 4. But equally, it could mean that you take on a different set of behaviour, which is, okay, I can't trust anyone else. I've got to do it on my own. And that's mine. That's my belief, which I've been running since I was 5 years old. So it could be that as well. So it can go in different ways. They tend to be, they're the sort of polarities, and it tends to be that people go one way or the other. So either the very clingy behaviour, the very needy behaviour, or the very slightly aloof, maybe slightly prickly as they get older, seeming quite independent, liking spending time on their own, maybe find it difficult to make relationships, you know, making new friends is hard. They're not very smiley, they don't make eye contact. And then you've got the kids on the other end of the scale who are the delightful, lovely ones who smile at everyone and everyone wants to be their friend. They'll be the needy ones, you know, and there's a spectrum. There'll be people in the middle. But it's really interesting when you look at that and look at what you are and how you might come across to others. So that I know I have been accused in the past of being a bit prickly from time to time. But the more work I've done around this over the years, I think the more that's broken down. So hopefully not prickly these days. So what I want to do now is just a few rounds of tapping. If you're new to tapping, or even if you're not, you might want to just have some tissues to hand because it could trigger you. I want you to know that if you feel overwhelmed, to keep your feet on the floor, notice the feeling of your feet beneath them, maybe wiggle your toes, really get a good sense of your feet on the ground. Breathe. I'll show you the breathing in a moment. So just do the breathing technique and then resume tapping. So I would ask you not to, you know, rush out of the room and stop, because actually if you do get a little bit triggered, it will come down again. So you will be fine. So breathing, feet on the floor, and then tap again as soon as you can. You may notice that you get some signs of releasing during this. That is often sighing, yawning, burping, because that's all things that are actually getting us a little more relaxed. So don't worry if you suddenly feel really tired. That also is quite normal. So I'll talk you through the tapping points. If you don't know them and get lost, don't worry. Just follow me, or just go back to tapping on the top of the head or the inside of the eyebrow. It's fine. So we start here on the outside of the hand. And we're just going to take a breath in for 3. And out for 5. And again, in for 3. Out for 5. Once more, in for 3. And out for 5. So you might want to say these words out loud if you can, if it doesn't feel silly, or just repeat after me in your head. Even though I like my own company, I can't trust other people, and I like to do things on my own. I love and accept myself anyway. If that's difficult to say, just say I'm doing the best I can, or something positive. So I'm doing my absolute best in the world. Tap on the top of the head. I like to do things on my own. Inside of the eyebrow. I can't really ask for help. Outside of the eye. And even when I do, they don't do it properly. Under the eye. They don't do it how I would do it. Under the nose. They don't do it as well as me. Under the mouth. They don't do it in the right way. Under the collarbone. They just don't do it quite right. Under the arm. So it's easier to do it on my own anyway. Across the wrist. I can't really trust anybody else. Next to the thumbnail. I can't trust them with jobs I want them to do. Next to each finger in turn. I can't trust them with my emotions. I can't trust them with telling them the truth about me. I can't trust them not to hurt me. I can't trust them not to walk away if they know what I'm really like. Just tap on this part on the back of the hand. And back to the karate chop point. Let's take a breath. Okay. Just tune into how that feels. You may well have got a little triggered there. There might have been some stuff that resonated for you. That's very common. So yeah, just notice what I said that you thought, oh yes, yeah, that's definitely true. Because none of it's true. It's all our perception. It's all our beliefs. Nothing is true, really. It's just our perception of the world. Okay, let's go again. Even though I'm better on my own, I like to be on my own. I can't trust anyone else. I love and accept myself anyway. Top of the head. Can't trust anyone else with my emotions. Inside of the eyebrow. I can't trust anybody else totally. Outside of the eye. I can't trust them. They might walk away. Under the eye. If they knew the real me, they wouldn't like me. Under the nose. And I can't trust them anyway. Under the mouth. I've never been able to trust. Under the collarbone. I have to do it all myself. Under the arm. Even though that can be really hard work. Across the wrist. It can be really hard work doing it on my own. Next to the thumb. And I often feel unsupported. Next to each finger in turn. I really would love some support. But I can't ask for it. I have to do this on my own. Even though it's really hard work a lot of the time. Keep going round. I've always done things on my own. I've been independent since I was very young. It's served me well. Everything that I've achieved is down to me. I haven't had to have help. I've done it all myself. And that feels great, but also quite exhausting. Sometimes I get really worn out with that. I feel really tired. And a bit of help and support might really be lovely. But I can't really trust anyone to help me. They won't do it right. They won't do it as well as me. They'll never do it quite the same. They'll let me down. They always do. But I do feel separate sometimes. I feel like I don't quite fit in. I don't really feel part of a clan or a tribe. Don't really feel part of things a lot of the time. I feel a bit left out. Like everyone else is in on the joke and I don't know what they're talking about. I get really hurt and upset if people arrange things and leave me out. That's really, really, really upsetting for me. I often do feel a bit separate. I go to social events, networking events. Everybody else seems to be having a better time than me. Everyone else seems to be able to make connections better than me. Everyone else seems to have more friends than me. I do feel left out. I feel like I can't quite connect with people. And so I just become more independent, more self-sufficient. I don't need them anyway. I can do this on my own. Who needs a group of friends? I like my own company. I like being on my own. I don't need a big group. I don't need a small group. But sometimes I do feel left out. I do feel like everybody else is having a better time than me. And that's hard. Sometimes that's hard. I look at my friends, I look at my family members, look at my partner, my kids, my parents. They all seem to be having a better time, a more sociable time. They're more connected with people than I am. And I do find it hard. Sometimes I find it really difficult. But it's just a feeling, just a feeling. A feeling of being separate, being a bit left out, not quite knowing what to say, not quite knowing how to build relationships. Okay, so how is that for you? If you feel quite triggered, if you feel quite emotional, then I would ask you just to pause, and you can catch up with the rest later, and just go do a couple more rounds of tapping and just do some breathing, which we'll do now. In for 3 and out for 5. Okay, so a lot of triggering stuff in that, and some of it may not have been true for you, but likely some of it would have been. So there's probably some or many situations you find yourself in where you think, I don't belong here, I'm not really part of this group. And it's, that can be tough. And that's because we've built up this nice shell around ourselves, to keep us separate, because that's safe. Back when we were a little girl or a little boy, somehow our brain told us that that was the safe thing to do. But it may be that on that occasion it was safe, but now that behavior doesn't serve us, and we can break it down. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise now, which is a little amalgam of some different techniques that I've learned over the years. And essentially what we're going to do is I'm going to send you back down your timeline. You can go back as far as you want. So you might want to go back to the moment of your conception. Generally speaking, people are not born feeling separate, although they can be. And the situations that they are, or more commonly are, is if they were maybe an unwanted baby or a shock baby, a surprise baby. But it is more common that belief is made once we're born and in the first few years. But you might want to go all the way back down to conception, and you're going to pick up all your little echoes, we're going to call them, all the little mini yous, and every time that a version of you felt that emotion of either being separate, of wanting to be independent, of wanting to be on your own. So there might be many hundreds of little yous, mini yous, that you're going to pick up here. And we're going to bring them all together into a beautiful space. So this is any space, it might be real or imaginary, does not matter. It might be inside or outside, any space that feels lovely and safe for you. And if you have particular resources that you want to put in that space to make it feel even better, if you like to connect with angels or crystals or some sort of God, or nature, you might want lots of beautiful old trees in there, whatever works for you. If you want to add anything to that space, then do that, add in what you need. So we're going to bring all your little echoes into that space, and then we're all going to tap together. Now, as you sweep up your little echoes, I don't want you to connect with the emotions that they're feeling, because you might get overwhelmed, because it's going to be a lot of times that the little you has felt this unwanted behavior that you've now decided to take the plunge and make some changes to. So don't connect with them, just bring them along with love, but you don't have to connect into that emotion. So don't get too involved in them. And then when we come into this lovely space, I'm going to ask you as your current self to be a little elevated. So if you chose an outdoor space, a beautiful, I don't know, national park, you might want to see yourself standing on a little hill with all your echoes out before you. And then I'm going to talk you through a tapping sequence, and we're going to do a little more stuff. And then I'm going to do a big self-forgiveness exercise, which is really, really powerful. But what we're connecting into is the feeling that it engenders at the end. And that's the feeling of connection. And that's the feeling that when we can tune into that feeling of connection, that stops us getting onto Amazon and doing some compulsive shopping. It stops us from having to get onto video games. It stops us from having to dive into a bucket of chocolate or a bottle of wine. So that's the feeling that I'll be getting you to really, really focus on. That's our kind of end game, if you like. Right, lovely. Close your eyes if you feel happy to do that. Only because most people visualize better with their eyes closed. If you can visualize perfectly well looking into a blank wall, then that's good. Probably better to not have the TV on. Okay, so just close your eyes, take a couple of breaths in for 3 and out for 5, and once again. Lovely. So I want you to imagine that above the top of your head there is a funnel, and into that funnel is being poured infinite love and healing energy. And it's pouring in through the top of your head, and it's filling up every single cell of your body, right down to the tips of your toes, the tips of your fingers, all up through your legs, through your torso, down your arms, through your head. And as you're filled with this infinite love and healing energy, you're becoming lighter and lighter and lighter. And as you become lighter and lighter and lighter, you're able to float out of your physical body, and you can imagine floating down the timeline of your life. Just notice which direction that is, whether it's left, right, straight on or backwards. Just go down the timeline of your life. And we're going back to the place where we need to start, and your infinitely wise subconscious mind knows exactly the place to go. So just trust the process. It might seem weird as anything. Just trust, and your mind will know where to go. It's going to take you to the first time that you made a decision that you had to do stuff on your own. So it's going to take you back there. So it might even take you back to the womb. It might take you back to early years. Doesn't matter where it takes you. And when you get there, you're going to pick up or ask your little younger self to come along with you. And with him or her, you're going to float all the way back up your timeline to the present day. And as you go, you're going to pick up all those little versions of you that ever felt that same feeling. That belief that they had to do this on their own, that they could do it on their own, that they didn't need anyone else. We're going to pick them all up, pick up all those little echoes, bring them all back, and there might be a lot of them. So just float up your timeline, bringing them all back. And we've got your immensely wise subconscious that knows exactly who to pick up, exactly where to go, and bring them all into this safe space. And you don't need to spend a long time doing this, because your subconscious works so quickly that you can swoop up your timeline in no time at all, bringing all those echoes. And actually by doing that, that stops you connecting into the emotions with them. If there are any echoes that seem too distressed or really over distressed, you can pause there and just tap on the little version of you, and just tap on where we've just been going on the head, on the face. Just tell them that it's okay, they survived this, It's going to be all right. You're the living proof that they made it through and they survived and they're amazing. Just tell them that. They're amazing. They made it. It's going to be okay. And just tap on them until they calm down sufficiently to carry on being brought forward up the timeline, right to today, right to this very, very moment, into this beautiful space you've created, this lovely space where we're going to bring all your echoes together, all ages, because there'll be lots of them from adult life, and just have them in this space. And you might want to bring in ancestors, you might have grandparents or great-grandparents that you want to bring in to sort of support them, to stand around the edges and just hold a lovely energy for all these echoes. And then we're just going to ask them, you're going to stand on your high place, just showing them how to tap on the outside of the hand. You don't have to open your eyes, I'll talk you through the tapping. They can all tap on the top of their head, even the babies can do this. Tap on the inside of their eyebrow, just on the emotion they were feeling in that very moment when you swept them up. Tap on the outside of the eye, they're tapping on the emotion. Don't tune in to what's going on for them all. Tap under the eye, keep yourself separate and just show them how to tap. Tap under the nose, all of that emotion that they're feeling in that moment. Tap under the mouth. Give them permission to really feel the emotion, tapping under the collarbone, and then to let it go. So you're giving them permission to feel into it, to sense it, tapping under the arm. Tapping across the wrist, you're giving them permission to be present with the emotion. They don't have to stuff it down, they don't have to hide it. They don't have to do anything else with it. Tap next to each nail in turn, starting on the thumb. You're giving them permission to feel right into the emotion and let it go. And you can show them how to do that lovely breathing in for 3 and out for 5. Tapping on the back of the hand. Okay, we'll just do one more round of tapping with them. Tap on the side of the hand. Just any residual feeling, any unwanted emotion, any of that uncomfortable emotion that they were feeling. Tap on the top of the head, inside the eyebrow, outside the eye, under the eye, under the nose, under the mouth, under the collarbone, under the arm, across the wrist, and then next to each fingernail in turn. And they can let go of any residual emotion that they were feeling in that moment that you swept them up. Just tap on the back of the hand and then on the outside of the hand. Lovely. Okay. And I want you to imagine now that the most beautiful cleansing rain is beginning to fall, even if you're inside, that's okay. And it's totally cleansing and it's washing out any residual emotion, any of that unwanted negative emotion, that feeling of being separate, that feeling of having to do it on their own, the feeling of it being hard work. And it's just washing through them, washing out any residual bits into the ground where it's transmuted into beautiful golden healing energy once again. Okay. And if you can now just put your left hand on your heart and with your right hand, put it on that point on the back of the hand that we tapped on earlier. Okay, and now just envisage that beautiful golden light that we began with that was funneled into the top of your head. Just want you to imagine that being funneled into the heads of all of those little yous, those younger yous, those mini yous. Just see each and every one of them being filled with that beautiful, beautiful golden healing light. It's a light of infinite love and healing energy, and it's filling up every single one of your echoes. They are all being filled with infinite love and healing energy from the tips of their toes to the tips of their fingers, all the way up through their body, through their head. And as it fills them up, you notice that each and every one of them is energetically joined by a cord from their heart to the other hearts. It's usually heart. You might find it joined from the belly button or somewhere else, but usually it's heart. So there are cords joining them to all the other echoes in that space. So there's a whole multitude, a massive web of cords now being formed as they're all energetically joined together. And this infinite love and healing energy flows down all these cords. So all of these cords are glowing golden in this amazing space. And the ancestors and the angels and whoever else you brought in are all watching and smiling. And I just want you to ask all of your echoes to say these words. And you can say them as well in your head or out loud, whichever is appropriate for where you are right now. I forgive you for not always being the person I wanted you to be. I forgive you completely and utterly and without any conditions. And just take a lovely breath as they all say that together. And I want you to imagine, like a gigantic Russian doll, that all of these echoes melt into one. So they all step into each other. So it's like a Russian doll. They're all inside each other and inside you. And notice how that feels. Just notice the feeling of that. Where are you feeling it? What are you feeling? If you could give a name to that feeling. And I also want you to notice if there's a colour. So notice the feeling, the place, and the colour. And I want you to allow that feeling and that colour to expand through your body. Let it expand up, down, filling every cell, particle, and atom of your physical body with that feeling, that colour. And as it fills you up, allow it to expand beyond your physical body into your energy field. And beyond that, you can send that feeling and that colour out, right out, all through the universe. And that is the feeling and the colour that I'd like you to remember, because this is what you can connect to whenever you get the feeling of separation, of I have to do it on my own. Connecting with this feeling, connecting with this colour, and just allow it to spread through your whole physical body. And the more you practice doing this, the quicker you can make it happen. The best time to do it is first thing in the morning when you wake up. So as soon as you're awake, just spend a couple of minutes bringing that feeling into your heart or wherever it was you felt it. And the colour, notice the colour, allow it to spread through you, allow it to spread out of you and beyond and right out into the universe. And practice doing that whenever you feel less than, whenever you feel separate, whenever you feel you have to do this on your own. Any kind of unwanted or negative emotion throughout your day, whenever you feel, I need a glass of wine, whenever you feel, I need to check Facebook and see how many likes I've got, whenever you feel anything like that, any lack of connection, then just do this. And know that you are connected to every single living being on this planet. Not just humans, every living being. We are energetically connected. And just feel what that feels like. Allow yourself to feel that sense of connection with all your younger selves, with all the people around you, whether you know them or not, you are energetically connected to them. You've done good work. You might feel a little tired. So just take a deep breath now. And breathe out. And if you've still got your eyes closed, then just notice your feet on the ground. Become aware of the chair underneath you and bring yourself back into the present moment. Open your eyes. Well done. So how was that? And, you know, that's profound. That's pretty deep, profound work that you've just done. 35 minutes. Well done. And if you work through that regularly, I would say at least once a day, maybe twice, you will notice really big differences. So I've been doing this with a sense of connection to every living being every day for the past week. And as I mentioned, 7 pounds of weight have dropped off. So that's nice. More of that. There's a few more pounds to go, but yeah. So it's really profoundly effective. Really effective work, because we're working with the subconscious mind, and you can't do this in a conscious state very well. So the tapping's a really nice way to start off, to kind of tune into what's going on. Obviously, it'll be there on Facebook. You can watch it whenever you wish. And I'm going to upload it to YouTube as well, for anyone who is there. So thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And I'd love any feedback, so please do comment if there's anything you'd like to say about that session. Thank you.